can allow me to survive for this X amount of days, which I guess that explains the craze whereby we've been hearing news, we've been seeing, for that matter, videos of people who are going out and buying, not just the craze about toilet papers, but they're buying a lot of toilet papers and a lot of sanitizers. Interestingly enough, there's still a lot of fresh veggies, and which is, I guess, good for many of us. So people are doing it selfishly. There may be a need for you to, should it come to that, a need for you to buy, okay, let me buy enough that will sustain me for X amount of days. But in order for you to be able to do that, you need to have, some emergency funds in place. But even better yet, coming to Adventists, we really need to think about taking our message seriously. Because if at least a significant percentage of us was living in the countries, even if not necessarily all of us, but a significant percentage of us was living, by the way, we keep on saying country, maybe not everyone understands the idea of country. This kind of country living is when you are living, it's similar to village living. You're not living in the center, you are living
in a farm,
farm, think of like farm living outside, not where there's this highly dense, that's what we're talking about. And then when you are there, you have a little bit of ground, you can do a little bit of planting so that at least a couple of items of food you are able to produce for yourself. That's what we're talking about. So if a certain percentage of us was doing that over the years, we would be knowledgeable on how this is done, and we would even be able to, assist other people. Maybe, like, okay, things are bad there, there's no food, we can invite more people and all of that. But we haven't been practicing this. And another practical example, for instance, we know that we are told that for the first X amount of years, a child is supposed to be reared by their mother. The idea of homeschooling, for instance. There's this idea now that children are sent away from schools and they have to stay home. And now some people are still working. Even people who are couples, both of them are working. They have kids, both of them are working. And now they're struggling a bit. What do we do? Because not everyone is told to stop working. But if we were practicing the idea, I'm speaking specifically within the context of people who have, like, households that have both the husband and the wife. If we practice the idea of saying that, okay, at least one of the people, and ideally the mother, because the mother's the one who has that time out because of like the pregnancy and all of that, it makes more sense in that sense. If one of them was staying home as a practice to rear up the children, then in a situation like this, it will be less of a challenge, because that's already something that they are doing already, you understand? So all I'm trying to say in all of this is that if Seventh-day Adventists were practicing most of the things that we are counseled to practice under situations like this, even if not all of us, I'm saying a high percentage of us was practicing most of the things that we are counseled to practice, then we would be able to say to the world, this is the best way of living, both in and out of times of crises. Now, during the time of crisis, it's not time now to practice like this. It's time to implement. Now, all we can do now at times like this is to listen to the directions that we're getting from the presidency and all of that, and try to implement these things and try to weather the storm as much as we possibly can. But I pray that at the end of this, we can start sitting down and saying, hey, those people who were talking about country living, and they were talking about this health message and all of these things, maybe they were not too crazy. Let's start maybe paying attention to what they are saying and ask them to show us the material that they've been reading, so that we can be able to live better lives. And should a crisis again happen, we'll be like, no, now we know.
Yes,
we're better equipped to be able to deal with it.
Sure, it's powerful. Yes, Brother Mike.
Just to add on that, if we recall when 1 Samuel chapter 13, it says there was a time whereby Saul, he had around 3,000 soldiers, and then he kept 2,000 soldiers, and then 1,000 soldiers went to Isa. Now it says after that he sent people to go, and it says then there was no smith in Israel.
Mm-hmm.
We are in that situation now, whereby there is no
smith as in a person
who sharpened the sword.
Metals.
Okay, so that's a trade industry. Okay,
Yes.
all right, I'm coming to that.
because it says now for them to sharpen their sword, they have to go to the Philistines.
Okay.
Now we are waiting for someone to come and give us a solution. This is the situation where we find ourselves now. We are waiting an answer from someone. Whatever, whether is it good or bad, we will consume it without thinking, because now everyone wants to survive. Correct as you said. We are told, pen of inspiration, even if you are a lawyer, a doctor, whatsoever. He mentioned the issue of possible people retrenchment. That is about to take place. Pen of inspiration, it says, even if you are a lawyer, you are supposed to have an emergency skill. What does it mean? Should you fail to practice your law, you're supposed to have means of surviving, where else you are not practicing what you have been trained for. That is an emergency skill. It is clearly stipulated that each and every one of us, whatever, but what we have done, we have stayed there without looking at the issue of, and because it is called an emergency situation. By this time, we're supposed to be well prepared. He mentioned that should we have practiced what we have been told, but what we have done, the writings of a person who advised us way in advance, what we have been doing, we have been silencing him back and forth. Now we are in crisis, now we remember all the codes. We can even tell you the page where we find it. Because now we are in crisis, we are dealing with the reality. Because we don't have an emergency scheme. He mentioned that we are at the point of we're supposed to be pulling from an emergency scheme, but we've got absolutely nothing. If Pastor John cannot pay me, I'm dead.
We are gone.
I'm gone.
Yeah, just on that point, not to cut you. We are also advised or counseled in the SOP writings of Ellen White that as Seventh-day Adventists, we should thrive or strive for independence, like self-sufficiency, not self-sufficient, but self-supporting ministries. And when I look at the situation of South Africa, we have very, very, very few self-supporting ministries. Do you care to elaborate on that? Can you just elaborate on that? We have very, very few self-supporting ministries. When I speak about self-supporting ministries, it's ministries that are not depending on donations to function as ministries. We are not depending on donations, but we have a skill, we have a trade that we use to generate money in order to fund the functions of the ministry.
Which is how Paul operated, by the way.
He was a tent maker. Yeah. So my question is, why are we not practicing that? Why are we not having? Why are we not promoting people to start self-supporting ministries where they can empower themselves to have skills such as boiler making, bricklaying, what else? Woodwork, carpentry, and all these other skills. Yes, you can be a lawyer, you can be a lawyer, you can be a, what do you call it? You can be a geologist. The economy collapses, but John can no longer pay you. What do you do with that geology? What do you do with that LLB? It looks at you in the eye. Yeah, you are hungry right here.
And the family has to be supported by
Yeah.
Because
so what do you do? What can we do from here onwards, seeing that we've not been implementing these things? That's my question. So I took long to come to the question.
Let's try to unpack a danger that we have created ourselves. We have classified our jobs according to our status. There are things that you told myself that based on my profession, who do you think am I that I can start doing that?
Can't do that.
I can't do that. Which means we have bottlenecked ourselves, or we have placed ourselves in a pit now. It's difficult to get out of it. Because now it was surrounded with pride of classifying that there are certain things that I can do, there are certain things that I cannot do. But because we have been depending on from someone else, and that someone says, unfortunately, I cannot continue with this pace because, as you can see, the economy is not responding well. Keeping you, unfortunately,
it's a cost, it's a loss.
It's a loss, exactly. Because it's going to come to that point of where the companies have to prioritize who do we keep and who we won't keep. And it comes back again in the issue of being steward. How faithful have we been in our jobs? Because when the boss is not there, now my criminality is all over the show. Because the boss went for a meeting for a week, and I cannot be found on my desk. Because the problem that we have created, I work because I can be seen that I'm working. But as soon as whoever is governing me is no longer there, with Joseph it was a different picture. The man who he hired Joseph did not know how wealthy was he, except Joseph. Because Joseph was very faithful. It is going to hit us back in different things. Because we have been crying, no, we are not getting increase and so forth, but we knew that we were not even productive. While there was still work. Now, when there's a situation saying, let's go and work at home, how faithful are we going to be? I hope that we are going to do our part. Because now, how have we been performing in our area? That's why when coming to the issue of job, we never exclude God even in our jobs. That's why when we pay tithe of the money that I've been receiving from the work that I have been doing. That's why we always connect our education. It includes, even if I'm at work, I'm still responding or responsible to God. The book education, it says our work is first audited by God, by angels, and more often. Most people will say, no, they're not increasing my salary. And the angels look at our record. This person is not doing faithful, but he's crying at church. Please pray for me. I'm not getting increase. Now, saints, I'll repeat again, he has said about that. Should we have been faithful from the things that we have been taught? At this time, I'm simply saying, we were supposed to be seeing Adventism showing up during this crisis. We were supposed to be now to say, we have been undermining them, but we can see this thing of them is working. This gospel is working. They have been saying they cannot come on the Sabbath and so forth and so forth. But now, during crisis time, they are able to stand. And by so doing, we will be able to defend the Sabbath faithfully. Because now we will still continue to say we cannot come on the Sabbath, where else we are still productive and we can produce and we can come with answers. Which means that on its own it can defend our religion.
Okay, powerful. We are living between the third and the fourth industrial revolution. We have already put our toes within the space of the fourth industrial revolution. So the nature of skills, like demand of skills in society, is changing. So now, as a Seventh-day Adventist, how can we position ourselves in this situation? Like, industry is changing now. So how can we position ourselves?
So there are two things. It's actually a lot to think about, actually. Maybe some of these things we'll expound on later talks like that speak specifically on some of the topics. But just follow what Brother Mike has said. I think that there is a need for, we spend a lot of time on nonsense, right? Especially in the age of social media, we often say this. Many of us are guilty of this. I know I'm guilty of it. Spend too much time on Twitter, Facebook, YouTubing. You don't know what you're YouTubing and all of that. this is time that we could perhaps be investing on learning new skills, right? So I do think it's very important for you to have under your belt a practical skill, and let me say a skill that requires your hands. That's not necessarily technological. Even though we are, I mean, I'm speaking as a software developer, so, but even though that's the case, I think it's very wise to, if there's anything, in speaking in the context of like the coronavirus, if there's anything that this thing has shown us, is that as advanced as the world is, nature can still say, oh, you guys think you're clever now, okay, but you're still biological creatures.
Yes.
So I can just release something just to see just how, and then now when that happens, all of a sudden your as you said, your LLBs and all of your computer, no one cares about the website necessarily. In times like this, yes, maybe there can be, make apps to show the statistics, whatever, but generally, some of these things that are not necessary for survival, they become less relevant. So I think it's very wise for us to teach ourselves skills that are survival-based, whether it is how to till the ground and produce food, or how to make things, and these practical skills that are necessary for survival on the one hand. And then on the second hand, I think as the children of God, there is an emphasis that is put. People often accuse people who are religious, people who read the Bible, for instance, with the intent of trying to dismantle it. They fail to appreciate, and I consider those people who actually do that as people who are non-scientific and I don't want to say unintelligent, but they lack the intellectual sophistication. Even if you're not viewing the Bible from the basis of spirituality, just viewing it on the basis of saying, okay, what does this thing actually say? If you were to view it in that way, you would find that there is a lot of wealth that is found in the Bible. And the Bible, contrary to what people tend to teach, that it teaches that you must just be this idiot that does not, it actually prices people who think. It prices, Brother Mike spoke about this idea that we should not be mere reflectors of other people's thoughts.
Yes.
So therefore, because of that, as the children of God, now adding the spiritual aspect of it, theologically, we say that we are people in whom the Spirit of God lives.
Yeah.
People who are led by the Spirit of God.
Yeah.
But sadly, in many cases, that's not even really the case, because we live our lives as